Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about AJ Styles in NXT. Yes, only once before has the phenomenal one entered the NXT arena. This was back in 2019 when you had the whole Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, when NXT was a legitimate third brand for that brief period there, where they were competing with Raw and SmackDown. But AJ Styles was back in NXT last night, yes. AJ Styles made a rare NXT appearance last night, just his second in the history of the brand. Now, Styles came to NXT 2.0 to confront Grayson Waller, who has taunted Styles via social media videos over the weekend. Now, on the show, after Dexter Lumis defeated Trick Williams, Waller attacked Lumis from behind with a steel chair. Waller laid Lumis out and said he planned to take out the best in NXT one by one, a mission that began earlier on in the month with Johnny Gargano and LA Knight. AJ Styles then appeared on the big screen. He was shown arriving in the back of the arena. Waller took a seat in the ring and waited as NXT went to commercial for AJ Styles to come to a ring. Now, after the break, Waller cut an in-ring promo, how he hates it when people get inducted into the Hall of Fame and wasted his time on thanking fans. Waller said when he's inducted, he will thank himself and say, "I told you so" to everyone else. Waller continued this tirade until music interrupted and AJ Styles made his entrance to a big pop. Waller took credit for single-handedly bringing Styles to NXT, but the Raw superstar told him to shut up, and which this brought a "shut the hell up" chant from the crowd. Styles and Waller then had words on the mic, with AJ calling Waller the biggest, you know the rest, around. Waller said AJ didn't come to NXT to be a veteran who helps the new guy. He came to NXT because his meal ticket, Omos, left him. We'll talk about Omos in a second. And he needs a new meal ticket to stay relevant on Raw. Of course, this was a reference to AJ Styles and Omos splitting up on Raw. As I mentioned, we'll touch on that in a second. Waller said he appreciates AJ's offer, but he's more of a singles guy. This led to AJ firing back at him, saying Waller called him out just to get the AJ Styles rub, then accusing Waller of copying his in-ring attire with the gloves and single elbow pad. AJ admitted Waller has some potential, but he's not a future superstar like Bron Breakker, Tony D'Angelo, or the North American champion Carmelo Hayes. AJ went on and said the jury is still out on Waller, but his problem is he would rather look good and lose than look bad and win. Now, this war of words between Styles and Waller continued until Waller declared he could end AJ right now, there and then if he wanted to. AJ told him to do it. He challenged him to try and be phenomenal for 20 years instead of having just a few good weeks. AJ then dropped the mic and told Waller to bring it, but Waller exited the ring to several boos. So it was an interesting segment. Now, this is all because, I'm sure they want to get over Grayson Waller, obviously, but this was all because the NFL was on Tuesday this week. There was, 2 NFL games, I think, this week. So WWE, Vince McMahon, the powers that be, panicked. They were, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, NXT hasn't been doing, certainly this NXT 2.0 has not been doing particularly well in the ratings and viewership. I don't think it's been doing any better than the previous iteration of NXT. I believe last week, wasn't it the lowest viewed and rated NXT since they moved to Tuesday nights? So this new version, this revamped version of NXT is not really the ratings draws I think that they hoped. You could argue, why would you expect it to be much of a ratings draw where you don't really have any, lack of a better word, stars on the show, because they're all developmental talents that are improving. They're not exactly big names, and once they become big names, they go to Raw or SmackDown. That's the problem with NXT, with being a draw in the first place. So WWE panicked, and they thought, well, put AJ Styles on the show, maybe it will bring some people in to watch. But let's face it, and no disrespect to AJ Styles, but you can't have 2 NFL games on a Tuesday night. Raw can't beat the NFL. Raw struggles with the NFL. Pretty much every pro wrestling show that goes up against the NFL struggles and loses viewers because of it. You can't put just AJ Styles on a Tuesday and hope, well, we'll probably be okay because we've got AJ on. We'll talk about the ratings when they come out, like coming out later today, so we'll talk about them tomorrow, but let's face it, his ratings aren't going to be good. They aren't going to be good. You could argue that it might even make AJ Styles not look particularly great, because Styles might look like, oh, he couldn't even help NXT, but whatever. It's possible that AJ could return to NXT next Tuesday, and from there they'll confirm Styles versus Waller for the New Year's Evil special, which is on January the 4th. Styles versus Omos has been announced for next week's Raw, and that's what Waller was referring to when he said he has next on AJ. Now, it's rumoured, of course, that Styles versus Omos, the rematch, or there might be some shenanigans or what have you, will happen on Raw, and this rematch will happen at Day 1. I expect that to happen. Day 1, of course, is scheduled to take place 3 days before the NXT New Year's Evil special, so we'll have to wait and see. Of course, it gives a rub to Grayson Waller, and that's good for him. If they can get Styles to wrestle on the New Year's Evil special, that's something worth watching, and that's exciting. I think we might end up going there. And I'm not against this for NXT. I'm really not against this for NXT. And maybe with NXT not being a third brand now, it's just the developmental territory for WWE, maybe we can see a bit more of this, whereby someone comes in, works a program, goes back. They don't necessarily have to be drafted to NXT. Maybe we can get some crossover from the main roster and helping some of the younger guys or giving them the rub or putting them over. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think really anyone knows what this NXT really is. I know personally that, and I'm just speaking for myself here, I mean, I understand WWE's perspective on just going, you know what, we need to just reset this developmental territory, make it a brand full of younger stars, and hopefully we can generate some stars and develop some stars from the future. I get it, but they shouldn't have called it NXT. I think they should have just rebranded and renamed the whole thing, because any attachment that anyone had to NXT is completely gone. Because it's not NXT anymore. It's something different. They should have just renamed it. And maybe they will in the future. But it was interesting to see AJ Styles in the ring. But again, I still struggle to have any attachment to it. That must be said. Now, speaking of AJ Styles, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about Styles and Omos because they are no more. And they split up on Raw this week. But WWE reportedly does have big plans for AJ Styles and Omos heading into WrestleMania 38 season next year. As I mentioned, Styles and Omos split up on Raw this week following a few weeks of tension between the former Raw Tag Team Champions. The split came after Omos ignored AJ Styles' tag, which led to a loss to Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio this week. Things got physical after the match, and the segment ended with Omos driving AJ into the mat and standing tall over him. He stands tall over everyone, by the way, but standing tall over AJ Styles to end the segment. As mentioned, WWE then announced Omos versus Styles in a singles match for next week's edition of Raw. Now, in an update, and you will be not shocked to hear this was reportedly very rushed, because it was reported by WrestleVotes that the Omos versus Styles split came sooner than originally planned. Now, WWE reportedly has significant plans in the works for Styles and Omos in early 2022, plans that are separate from each other. Officials wanted any kind of blow-off to the storyline done before the major build begins for the 2022 Royal Rumble and WrestleMania 38 events. There's no word right now on what WWE does have planned for Styles and Omos as we get closer to WrestleMania 38, but Styles could end up feuding with any of the top single stars on the Red brand, such as Edge. A lot of people have wanted to see the Edge-AJ Styles match happen for a while. WWE has also reportedly had a singles push planned in mind for Omos for a long time. Now, if you recall, I think going back to October in the draft, there were plans then to split Omos and AJ Styles up, and I think AJ Styles and a lot of senior figures backstage went to those in charge, those being probably Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, and said it's way too early. In my opinion now, it's way too early. I'm all for having AJ Styles as a major single star on the brand because he's AJ Styles, he's unbelievable. You can't tell me right now Omos is ready. He's not. He is still incredibly green. And I know that WWE will have these big plans, and look, I was just about to say then with people thought the same about Braun Strowman, but he adapted. Maybe it could be the same, but again, look how it ended up. Braun Strowman's not with the company anymore. And they built this guy up, built him up, and he felt like at one point he had to become the Universal Champion, and he didn't. And by the time he did, nobody cared. That would be my concern about Omos going forward. As far as what their plans are for WrestleMania, I don't know. Again, AJ Styles versus Edge is a match everyone wants to see. I think we could see Edge versus Kevin Owens, though, at WrestleMania as well. That's a possibility. Maybe it's AJ Styles versus Big E or something like that. Omos, what the big plans are for him, I don't know. I really don't know, which is concerning, because when you don't know, WWE might be throwing a massive curveball. I could see maybe like a Omos versus like Goldberg or something like that. And you roll your eyes and you say, no, but this is WWE. If Goldberg's got like one match left on his contract, they'd give it to Omos, and Omos would destroy him in 3 seconds, and then Omos is a big star. I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out. But we'll have to wait and see what the plans are for that. This is an interesting story. And it's not much of a surprising one, to be honest. It's one of those stories that you see it and you go, well, no shit. So WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon is reportedly against the idea of no-cut clauses in talent contracts. Well, duh. Of course he is. He's released so many people this year. If he didn't have that, if he had these no-cut clauses in his contract, he would be able to do it. The release of some top talents in WWE this year has led to speculation on why wrestlers don't apply no-cut clauses to their deals. It's rare, but some WWE talents at the very top of the card still have no-cut clauses, which would prevent an early release. Now, in an update, word is that the subject of no-cut clauses was broached when WWE began making more cuts last year. This is according to a report by Fightful Select. And several people of influence within WWE were open to the clauses. However, talents were eventually told that the clauses were non-negotiable and not something WWE was willing to use in their deals at this point. It was also said that specifically Vince McMahon has been adamantly against the non-cut clauses. Well, again, obviously. WWE signed all of these people to the roster in 2019. Since then, they've released over 100 talents, citing budget cuts as the reason. Again, I saw this story and I went, well, obviously, of course he's against it. Because if he has these people under contract and he can't get rid of them, he has to use them. He doesn't want to use them. So, of course, and he wants ultimate control. When you say it's a no-cut clause, you lose control. Vince McMahon is a control freak. So, of course, he's not going to give power. And I think he's not dumb in the sense that he realizes if he gives, if he starts doling them out, then suddenly everyone will have them. He didn't even want to give guarantee contracts back in the 90s and the 80s, and eventually he had to. So, again, this was the story that I know was deemed a big story yesterday, but it's hardly surprising. It's hardly surprising at all. So, I don't know what people were expected from this one. I really didn't. In other news, the sky's blue, grass is green. Vince McMahon wants ultimate control and authority over his independent contractors that he treats as employees. It's Vince McMahon. What, you're surprised by this? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. We spoke about WrestleMania 38 earlier on. Let's talk a little bit more about it. Specifically, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because WWE Hall of Famer Steve Austin may end up making a special appearance of substance at WrestleMania 38. Now, Austin has been heavily rumored to appear at WrestleMania several months back when he appeared in the initial promos for the big event. Now, WrestleVotes, once again, is reporting that WWE officials are very interested in having the Texas Rattlesnake be a big part of WrestleMania in Dallas next year. Of course, it's going to be at AT&T Stadium. It was noted that WWE wants Austin to be, quote, a meaningful part of WrestleMania 38, but not in a wrestling role and more than just appearing. The report noted, quote, up to creative at this point. Now, Austin has not appeared on WWE programming since March 16, 2020. It was that first Raw in the Empty Performance Center, the special 316-day episode. Now, there's no word yet on if Austin is even interested on appearing at WrestleMania 38 or what creative has in mind for him. I think it's a slam dunk. It's a given. Steve Austin's appearing at WrestleMania. It's in Dallas. He appeared at the last WrestleMania in Dallas in 2016 at WrestleMania 32 when he had that segment with Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, facing the League of Nations. He's not wrestling, obviously, so let's remove that. He's in his late 50s at this point, and that ship is certainly way past. What could he do there? I don't really have much of an interest in Steve Austin being the host of WrestleMania. Again, I think that's been done to death, and I know they'll have one because they have to have a host every year, but I have no desire really to see Steve Austin be the host. Special referee, again, it's been done to death. It would have to be the right match and the right feud. The last time he was a special referee at WrestleMania was Jerry the King Lawler versus Michael Cole, which speaks volumes. So I don't know. I would be interested maybe in like an interview segment. We've got the Broken Skull Sessions. What do you have a live edition of the Broken Skull Sessions? 15-minute segment with someone, and then it does lead to some physicality. If anything, I think the segment they did at WrestleMania 32 was excellent. It really was excellent. Maybe they do something like that again. They can do an angle. They can absolutely do an angle. You know, maybe they build him up to be the host of WrestleMania 38, and then 2, 3, 4 weeks before WrestleMania, what happens? Someone takes him out on Raw. You know, a smidge of physicality. Someone takes him out and says, I'm going to be the host. And then, I don't know who that would be, but let's say, for instance, it was... Who could you have? I don't want it. I was going to say Happy Corbin, but oh God, no. But someone takes him out on television and they say, no, I'm the host of WrestleMania going forward. I'm going to be the one hosting the event. And then everyone, as you're getting close to the event, thinking, is Steve Austin going to show up? Is he going to show up? You start off the show with this host. Let's say it's Happy Corbin in the ring saying, we're going to be here for a happy WrestleMania. So much better without the other guy. Then he's talking. Glass breaks. Out comes Steve Austin, drops a stunner and says, welcome to WrestleMania. Different, something different. And I know I kind of contradicted myself saying I didn't want him to be a host and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know. But just do something different. Please do something different. But Steve Austin being there is definitely going to happen. Absolutely. Finally, I did want to touch on this because I thought it was great. Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens have formed an alliance this week on Raw following their loss to Big E, the WWE champion, and Bobby Lashley in the main event. The two former Universal champions assaulted their day one opponents. Can they coexist with steel steps before embracing for a hug to close out the show? I thought it was great. I hate the can they coexist thing, but Rollins and Owens are incredibly entertaining. Kevin Owens, being a heel, does his best work as a heel. The problem is, every time he turns heel, he becomes immediately even more lovable because he's so entertaining. But Kevin Owens took to Twitter and said, we're, quote, we're KO existing. SRKO. I love it. I think these guys should stay as a tag team and feud with RK Bro. That's a solid tag team feud for the tag titles, and I think that's what they will do. I think Big E will probably retain at day one. I could see Lashley winning, in fairness, but I think Big E will win. Rollins and Owens will lose. They spin off into a tag team, an entertaining tag team, and they face RK Bro. I think it makes sense. But I thought it was great, so I wanted to give him a shout out for that. But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these WWE news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go to the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.